Say it clearly, Mr. Thompson. Her voice didn't shake. The courtroom was silent enough to hear breath. Cameras lined the back wall. Reporters leaned forward. Pens hovered. At the defense table, he didn't move. Andre Thompson. Billionaire. Tech mogul. Political ghost. The man whose name could freeze markets. He looked bored. Say, she repeated, her heels echoing as she stepped closer, that your company did not fund the offshore accounts linked to Senator Holbrook. His jaw flexed once. He didn't look at the jury. He looked at her. Slowly. Carefully. Like he was memorizing the shape of her anger. I won't, he said. A ripple of whispers. Her pulse kicked hard, but her face stayed still. Because you can't, she pressed. Because, he said quietly, you're chasing the wrong fire. That was when her control slipped for half a second. The jurors noticed. The reporters definitely did. And somewhere in the back row, a man in a charcoal suit smiled faintly. Hello, my dearest soul family. How are we all doing today? Before we delve into today's story, I'd like us to take a moment now, like this video, subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. Your support helps us continue telling unforgettable billionaire stories just like this one. Now, let's continue. Isabella hadn't planned to see him again like this. Not under fluorescent lights. Not across polished wood and legal microphones. Not after what happened 15 years ago. She hadn't spoken to him since she was 17. Not since the funeral. Not since her father's coffin lowered into the ground and Andre stood beside his own father, silent, composed, untouched. She hated him that day. She hated how calm he looked. Her father had died branded corrupt. Fraud. Embezzlement. Political laundering. The headlines had screamed it. Her father had denied it. And then he was gone. The case had collapsed 2 weeks later. No explanation. No justice. Only whispers. And 3 men who had once built an empire together. Her father. Andre's father. And Leonard Crowe. Leonard Crowe had held her when she finally cried. He had told her, your father was a good man caught in something bigger. He had promised to protect her. He had stayed close. And Isabella had grown up with a single mission. Destroy corruption. Destroy billionaires who thought they could rewrite laws. Destroy men like Andre Thompson. Ms. Marlowe. The judge's voice pulled her back. Yes, Your Honor. Conclude your line of questioning. She inhaled. Study. You refuse to deny involvement? Andre leaned back slightly. I refuse to entertain a narrative designed to distract you, he said evenly. The audacity. Isabella stepped closer to the stand. You think this is about distraction? I think, he replied, eyes dark and unblinking, you're being positioned. A flicker of something unreadable crossed her face. Anger? Fear? No. Insult. You don't get to imply I'm incompetent, she said. I didn't. He let silence stretch. Then he spoke again. More calmer this time, you've always been very capable. The courtroom shifted. The familiarity in his tone felt intimate. Unwelcome. She swallowed it. No further questions. When she stepped outside, reporters swarmed around her like hunger. Is he going to be indicted? Is this politically motivated? Are you targeting Thompson Industries directly? She didn't answer. Her driver opened the car door. She slid in. The door shut. And only then did she let her jaw tighten. He was lying. He had to be. Every time she moved closer to uncovering financial trails linked to Thompson Industries, something happened. Witnesses withdrew statements. Evidence went missing. Internal memos from her own department questioned her strategy. Promotions she was promised were delayed. Articles appeared implying she was overzealous. It was him. It had to be him. He was powerful enough to ruin her without touching her directly. And he was doing it. Across the city, Andre stood alone in his penthouse office. The skyline glittered like something artificial. He removed his cufflinks slowly. On the glass wall beside his desk, a faint reflection showed a photograph resting on the credenza. 3 men. 1 garden. 1 little girl running in a white dress between them. Her hair in braids. His father's hand on her shoulder. Her father laughing. Leonard Crowe watching. Andre picked up the photo. His thumb brushed the edge. You're moving too fast, he murmured. Not to the photo. To her. He had already intercepted 2 internal memos that would have pulled Isabella into a Senate-level investigation. He had already redirected funding trails so her name wouldn't appear in certain filings. He had already absorbed suspicion that was meant for her. She thought he was sabotaging her. He was containing the blast radius. Because Leonard Crowe was not a man who lost quietly. And Isabella had just stepped onto his chessboard. That night, she stayed late. Files covered her desk. Bank transfers. Shell corporations. Political donations disguised as tech grants. Every trail eventually touched Thompson Industries. It was too clean. Too perfect. She stared at the numbers until they blurred. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated. Then finally, she answered. Stop. The voice was calm. Masculine. Low. Her spine stiffened. Who is this? You're digging where you shouldn't. Her fingers tightened around the phone. Is this a threat? She asked, but what followed was silence. Then he spoke up. No. It's an advice. And before she could say anything else, the call was disconnected. Her chest burned. She dialed back. No connection. She knew that voice. She hated that she knew it. Andre. Across town, Leonard Crowe sat in a private study lined with dark wood. He swirled amber liquid and crystal. A younger aide stood nearby. She's persistent, the aide said carefully. Leonard smiled faintly. She always was. And Thompson. Let him think he's shielding her. The aide frowned. You want the case to proceed? I want, Leonard said softly, pressure. He looked toward the window. City lights reflected in his eyes. Andre is his father's son. He'll sacrifice himself before he lets her burn. He took a slow sip from his crystal glass. And when he does, we remove him. 2 days later, Isabella received a notice. An internal ethics review. Allegations of bias. Conflict of interest. Her case against Thompson Industries was temporarily suspended. She stared at the letter. Hands shaking. It was him. It had to be. Rage bloomed hot and humiliating. She drove straight to Thompson Tower. No appointment. No warning. Security tried to stop her. She flashed credentials. The elevator ride to the top floor felt endless. But when the doors finally opened, he was already standing there. Waiting. No surprise on his face. Isabella. She didn't respond to her name. You think this is funny? She demanded. He dismissed his assistant with a glance. The office doors closed. Your review, he asked. You're enjoying this. He stepped closer. Not threatening. Controlled. You believe I orchestrated an ethics investigation inside your department? You've done worse. A muscle ticked in his cheek. And if I had, he said quietly, what would you do? She stepped into his space. I would destroy you. Silence lingered for a moment. His gaze dropped briefly to her clenched fists. Then back to her eyes. You're not ready for this war. Her laugh was sharp. Afraid? His voice lowered. Yes. The word hit wrong. She expected arrogance. Not that. Of me, she challenged. Of what happens to you, he corrected. The air shifted. For a second, just one, something old flickered between them. Garden sunlight. Funeral silence. Unspoken things. She crushed it. Stay out of my way, she said. I can't. Won't, she corrected. His jaw hardened. Can't. That was when her anger turned personal. You don't get to control what I fight, she said. I'm trying to keep you alive. Her breath caught. It was so sudden. So raw. She hated that it made her hesitate. I don't need you, she said. His eyes darkened. I know. And that hurt more than arrogance would have. She turned and walked out. He didn't stop her. He watched her go. And only when the elevator doors closed did his composure crack. He pulled out his phone. Move the timeline up, he ordered quietly. On the other end, there was silence. Then a response. Crowe won't like that. I don't care. He looked at the city below. She's already in. The first time Isabella realized something was truly wrong was the night someone tried to kill her. It wasn't dramatic. There were no screaming tires or masked men jumping from shadows. Just silence. Too much silence. The parking garage under the federal building was nearly empty when she walked toward her car. Her heels echoed against concrete. Her mind was still burning from the confrontation with Andre Thompson. "I'm trying to keep you alive." The audacity of that sentence made her jaw tighten all over again. Alive from what? From him? She unlocked her car. The headlights blinked. And then, something moved behind her. A sharp instinct crawled up her spine. She turned just as a black SUV rolled slowly out of the shadows. Too slow. Too deliberate. Her breath caught. The engine revved. And suddenly the vehicle lunged forward. Straight toward her. Her body moved before her mind could catch up. She jumped sideways, slamming into the cold concrete pillar. The SUV screeched past the exact spot where she had been standing seconds before. The impact of air alone knocked her balance. Her purse fell. Papers scattered across the floor. The SUV didn't stop. It sped out of the garage. Gone. Just like that. Her pulse hammered so violently she had to grip the pillar to stay upright. Her lungs burned. That hadn't been a mistake. That hadn't been reckless driving. That had been aimed. 2 hours later, she sat inside a police station answering questions. "Did you recognize the driver?" "No." "Any recent threats?" Her mind flickered back to the phone call. "Stop. You could say that." The officer scribbled something down. "We'll check nearby cameras." She nodded. But something inside her already knew. This wasn't random. This was connected. And her instincts kept circling back to one man. Across the city, Andre Thompson received the call at exactly 11:14 p.m. He was still in his office. Still watching a digital map of financial transfers projected across the wall. When his phone vibrated, his expression shifted immediately. "Tell me," he said calmly. The voice on the other end was tense. There was an attempt. His hand froze. "Is she hurt?" "No." Silence filled the office. Cold. Dangerous silence. Andre's fingers slowly curled into a fist. Crow moved earlier than expected. Andre's voice dropped to something lethal. "He won't touch her again." "You know that's not how this works," the voice replied. "If she keeps digging." "She will," Andre said. He already knew. "She's stubborn." He paused. "Just like her father." Andre closed his eyes briefly. Images flickered in his mind. A younger Isabella sitting on stone steps. Her father arguing loudly with Leonard Crowe in the garden. Andre's own father pulling him away quietly. "Power makes enemies, son. The dangerous ones smile while they destroy you." He opened his eyes. "Get me every security feed around the federal garage." "You're not thinking of." "I'm not thinking." Andre interrupted. His voice as cold as ice. "I'm deciding." The next morning, Isabella returned to work. Her colleagues treated her differently. Too polite. Too careful. The ethics review had spread through the department. Whispers traveled fast in federal offices. Her assistant approached carefully. "Coffee?" Isabella nodded. "You okay?" the woman asked quietly. "I'm fine." She wasn't. Her hands still trembled when she remembered the SUV. But fear had never stopped her before. If anything, it sharpened her resolve. She opened the latest file on Thompson Industries. Her eyes moved quickly across the financial structures. Something new caught her attention. A transfer chain. Small amounts. Hidden across multiple subsidiaries. But when mapped together, they formed a pattern. Political funding. Quiet influence. And every road still led back to one name. Andre Thompson. Her jaw tightened. "You're chasing the wrong fire." His words from the courtroom echoed in her mind. Good. That meant he was nervous. Later that afternoon, she received an unexpected visitor. The receptionist knocked on her office door. "Someone here to see you." "Who?" The woman hesitated. "Mr. Leonard Crowe." Isabella stood immediately. A warm smile spread across her face before she could stop it. Leonard Crowe had been part of her life for years. After her father died, he had checked on her constantly. Birthday calls. Holiday dinners. Encouragement when she entered law school. He had always said the world needed people like her. People who refused to let power go unchecked. She walked into the lobby. And there he was. Still tall. Still elegant. his silver hair perfectly combed, his eyes soft with familiarity. Bella. He opened his arms. She hugged him instantly. For a moment, she felt like she was 20 again. Lost, grieving, and safe in the presence of someone who understood. I heard about the ethics review, he said gently. And the accident last night. Her eyebrows lifted. How did you hear about that already? Leonard chuckled lightly. My dear, the people I know hear everything. He studied her face. Are you hurt? No, but shaken. A little. His hand rested briefly on her shoulder. You're brave, just like your father. The words warmed her chest. Thank you. They walked slowly toward her office. And how is your case against Thompson progressing? He asked. Her eyes sharpened. Difficult. Leonard sighed. That man has always been dangerous. You knew him well, didn't you? A pause. Yes. And his father? Even better. They entered her office. Leonard took a seat across from her desk. You know, he said thoughtfully, your father once believed Andre's father would destroy everything they built. Her head tilted. He never told me that. He tried to protect you from the uglier parts of business, Leonard said. Then his eyes softened. You're stepping into that ugliness now. Isabella straightened her spine. That's exactly why I became a prosecutor. Leonard smiled proudly. You make me very proud, Bella, he said. Then his tone shifted slightly. But you must be careful. She frowned. Careful of what? Men who hide behind innovation and technology while quietly shaping governments. Her lips pressed together. That's exactly why I'm pursuing this. Leonard studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Good, he said gently. But something about the way he said it felt strange. That night, Andre stood inside a dimly lit warehouse on the edge of the city. The man in front of him trembled. A security contractor. Paid to drive the SUV. I didn't know who she was, the man insisted. I was just told to scare her. By who? The man hesitated. Andre stepped closer. Not shouting. Not threatening. Just quiet. A terrifying quiet. By who? Crow. The name echoed through the empty building. Andre's jaw tightened. He already knew. But hearing it confirmed made something colder settle in his chest. Did he say why? The man shook his head. Just that she needed a warning. Andre stared at him for several seconds. Then turned away. Get him out of my sight. 2 guards escorted the trembling man away. Andre remained still in the darkness. Crow had made his first public move, which meant the game had officially started. And Isabella had no idea. Meanwhile, across town, Isabella sat alone in her apartment reviewing evidence again. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her stomach tightened. She answered. There was silence for a moment. Then a familiar voice. Low, controlled, spoke up. Are you home? Her eyes narrowed. Why? Answer the question. You don't get to demand anything from me. A quiet breath came through the phone. Then the voice spoke again. Look out your window. Her heart skipped. She stood slowly and walked toward the glass. Down on the street below, a black car sat parked under a street lamp. Andre leaned against the hood, looking up, watching her. Her pulse jumped between anger and something more complicated. She lifted the phone again. You're stalking me now? No. His voice was calm. I'm guarding you. Her laugh was sharp. You're unbelievable. Someone tried to kill you last night. Her body went still. How do you know that? Silence. Then quietly he said, because I've been stopping worse things for weeks. Her chest tightened. Why? The answer came without hesitation. Because if you keep chasing this case. His eyes lifted to meet hers through the glass. You won't survive it. Isabella stared down at him through the glass. 30 floors above the street. Andre Thompson didn't move. Didn't wave. Didn't try to come upstairs. He simply stood beside the black car, one hand resting on the hood, his dark coat shifting slightly in the night wind. Waiting. Watching. Her grip tightened around the phone. You're being dramatic, she said. You almost died yesterday. And you conveniently knew about it. Yes. His honesty irritated her even more. So what? She snapped. You orchestrate the attack and then show up pretending to protect me? For the first time, something in his posture stiffened. I don't need theatrics to control outcomes. The arrogance in that sentence made heat rush to her face. You really think you're untouchable, don't you? No. A pause. I think you're in danger. Silence stretched between them. She hated that part of her mind kept replaying the moment in the garage. The SUV. The speed. The intent. You expect me to believe you're some kind of guardian now, she said coldly. I expect you to listen. I don't take instructions from suspects. Another pause. Longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. Softer. Not weaker. Just different. Isabella. She froze slightly. He rarely used her name. Your father used to say something about storms, Andre continued quietly. He said the worst ones were the ones you couldn't see building. Her throat tightened unexpectedly. You don't get to talk about my father. I knew him. You knew the version of him that died a criminal. His head tilted slightly. Is that what you believe? Her eyes flashed. That's what the evidence showed. And evidence never lies? The challenge in his tone scraped against something deeper inside her. My father was a good man, she said. I know. The certainty in his voice made her chest tighten. Then explain why his company collapsed under fraud investigations, she demanded. Explain why his name was dragged through every news outlet in the country. Andre was quiet. Then he said something that made her heart skip. Because someone needed a scapegoat. Her breath stalled. What are you implying? That you're chasing the wrong man. Anger surged instantly. You expect me to believe that after everything connected to Thompson Industries? I expect you to question who benefits from you believing that. Her jaw clenched. Good night, Mr. Thompson. Don't dig into Crow. The name landed like a stone in water. Ripples of shock spread through her chest. What? She asked. But the line had already gone dead. Inside Leonard Crow's penthouse, the city lights painted the room in gold. He sat comfortably in a leather chair, reading a report. A young woman stood beside the desk. She survived the warning. Leonard nodded mildly. Of course she did. Thompson interfered again. Leonard closed the file slowly. That boy always did have a protective streak. The woman frowned. You don't seem concerned. Leonard smiled faintly. Oh, I'm very concerned. He stood and walked toward the massive window. Below, the city looked peaceful. But power was rarely peaceful. It's fascinating, he continued thoughtfully, how loyalty can become a weakness. The woman tilted her head. You mean Thompson? Yes. Leonard sipped from a crystal glass. He would burn down half the world before letting Isabella Marlowe suffer. His eyes glimmered. That makes him predictable. The next morning, Isabella tried to focus on work. It was impossible. Andre's words kept circling her thoughts. Don't dig into Crow. Why would he say that? Leonard had supported her for years. He had helped fund her scholarship, encouraged her legal career, visited her during the worst months after her father died. If anyone had been on her side, it was him. And yet, a small voice inside her mind whispered something uncomfortable. Why would Andre warn you about him? She pushed the thought away. Andre Thompson was manipulative. He was probably trying to redirect her investigation. Still, curiosity had always been her greatest weapon. She opened a new file, typed a name into the database. Leonard Crow. Immediately, dozens of results appeared. Corporate boards, political advisory positions, charitable foundations. Influence everywhere. Too much influence. Her eyes narrowed. Let's see what you're hiding, she murmured to herself. 3 hours later, she found something strange. A transaction chain. Old. Buried under years of corporate restructuring. But the origin date made her breath catch. 15 years ago. The same month her father's company collapsed. Funds had moved from one shell company to another. Until they disappeared into a political lobbying group. And that group had one key financial backer. Crow Strategic Holdings. Her heart started beating faster. No. That had to be coincidence. Leonard had been involved in hundreds of investments over the years. Still, the pattern bothered her. She kept digging. And the deeper she looked, the more threads led back to Crow. Not directly. Never directly. Always through layers of companies. Carefully hidden. Strategic. Her pulse pounded. This wasn't random. This was deliberate. And suddenly Andre's warning didn't feel like manipulation anymore. It felt like something else. Fear. That evening, she drove to her apartment under a sky thick with rain clouds. Halfway there, a black sedan slid smoothly into the lane behind her. She noticed it immediately. Years of investigative work had sharpened her instincts. The car kept a steady distance, turned when she turned, followed discreetly when she slowed. Her heart rate quickened. She reached for her phone. Before she could dial, her screen lit up. Andre. Her stomach tightened. She answered. "You're being followed," he said. Her eyes snapped to the rearview mirror. "I'm aware. Stay calm. You're not exactly the voice of comfort. Turn right at the next intersection." "Why?" "Because the car behind you belongs to Crow." Her hands tightened around the steering wheel. "You're guessing." "No." A pause. "I'm watching." She glanced toward the side street. Sure enough, another black car sat parked under a tree. And Andre leaned against it, watching the road, watching her. The realization made her pulse jump. He hadn't been bluffing. He really had been watching. "Turn right," he repeated. She did. The sedan behind her followed. Andre's car pulled out smoothly behind it. Suddenly the quiet street became a silent chase. Her heart pounded. "What are you doing?" she demanded into the phone. "Ending this." The calm certainty in his voice made something shift inside her. For the first time since this war started, she didn't feel completely alone. 2 minutes later, the sedan tried to accelerate past her. Andre's car surged forward, cutting it off. Both vehicles screeched to a stop across the road. The driver of the sedan stepped out. Big, armed. Andre stepped out of his car. Calm, unhurried. Even from a distance, Isabella could see something different in him. Not the polished billionaire. Not the composed executive. This version of Andre looked like a man who had spent years learning how to fight wars quietly. The driver reached inside his jacket. Andre moved faster. One precise motion. The gun hit the pavement. The man collapsed seconds later, pinned against the car. Andre spoke quietly to him. The man shook his head violently. Then Andre looked up, straight at Isabella. Rain began to fall. Slow, cold. And in that moment, she saw something she had never seen before. Fear. Not for himself. For her. Rain fell harder by the time Andre walked toward her car. Isabella's hands were still gripping the steering wheel when he opened the passenger door. "You can step out now," he said calmly. Her pulse was still racing. "What did you do to him?" "He's alive." "That wasn't my question." Andre leaned slightly against the doorframe, rain darkening his coat. "He won't follow you again." She finally stepped out of the car. The cool rain soaked her hair almost instantly, but she barely noticed. Her eyes moved past Andre to the man he had pinned to the pavement. 2 of Andre's security men were holding him down now. Professional. Silent. Like this wasn't their first time handling a situation like this. "You carry a private army now?" she asked sharply. Andre ignored the edge in her voice. "You shouldn't be alone tonight." "I've been alone my entire career." His eyes flickered briefly at that. Then he said quietly, "Not tonight." Her anger surged again. "You don't get to control my life. I'm trying to keep you breathing." That line is getting old. He studied her face for a moment. Rain rolled down her cheek, but her expression remained stubborn. Exactly the same look she used to wear as a child when she refused to back down from an argument. He remembered it too well. "You've been investigating Crow," he said. Her breath caught. "You've been watching my work?" "Yes." "That's illegal." "So is murder." The bluntness of his answer left her speechless for a second. "You think Leonard Crow ordered that attack?" she demanded. "I know he did." "That's absurd." "It's the truth." She shook her head. "You're trying to redirect me." "No." "Then explain the evidence linking you to political money trails." His jaw tightened. "That money trail is bait." "For who?" "For you." Her heart skipped. "You're lying." "I wish I was." Her mind raced through the financial documents she had studied earlier. The pattern. The timing. It suddenly felt too perfect. But she refused to let him see doubt. You expect me to believe Leonard Crowe, the man who helped raise me, is some kind of criminal mastermind? Andre's voice softened slightly. Yes. Her chest tightened. That's ridiculous. He destroyed your father. The words hit her like a gunshot. Her breath stopped. You don't get to say that. It's the truth. You're lying. He framed him. Stop. He needed someone to take the fall for a financial operation that went wrong. Stop. Her voice cracked. For the first time that night, the sound hung in the rain between them. Andre went quiet. He hadn't meant to push her that far. But time was running out. Crowe had already moved twice. There would be a third. And the third would not be a warning. Isabella's chest felt tight. Her mind rejected every word Andre had just spoken. It had to, because if it were true, then everything she believed for 15 years was wrong. You're manipulating me, she said quietly. I'm trying to protect you. You're trying to save yourself. If that were true, I would let you keep investigating me. The logic in that statement hit her harder than she expected. Still, her voice hardened. I'm not interested in your theories. Andre nodded slowly. I know. Good. But you should be. Why? She asked. Because Crowe is planning to destroy you. Her lips parted slightly. What? He's already planted evidence inside your department. Her pulse jumped. That's impossible. You'll be accused of accepting illegal campaign donations tied to your investigation. Her stomach dropped. That's insane. It's effective. Her mind raced. If something like that surfaced, her career would collapse overnight. The ethics review already hanging over her head would become permanent. You're bluffing, she said. I'm warning you. Why? The question came out sharper than she intended. Why would you risk everything to help me? She asked again. Andre didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at her the way someone looks at an old photograph. Something familiar. Something cherished. Something distant. Finally, he said quietly. Because I made a promise. Her eyebrows furrowed. To who? My father. The rain softened around them. For a moment, the city noise faded into the background. What kind of promise? She asked slowly. Andre's eyes moved briefly to the dark sky above them. The night your father died. Her breath caught. My father told me something. His voice dropped lower. He said there would come a day when you would start asking questions. Her chest tightened. And when that day came, Andre's gaze returned to her. I was supposed to make sure you survived the answers. The weight of that sentence pressed against her ribs. Why would he say that? Because he knew Crowe would eventually try to eliminate anyone who got too close. Her head shook again. No. You want proof. She hesitated. Part of her didn't want proof. Because proof would mean everything was changing. Still, her voice came out firm when she said, yes. Andre nodded once. Then tomorrow morning you're going to receive a document from an anonymous source. What document? Evidence tying you to financial corruption. Her stomach twisted. And when that happens, he continued, you'll understand exactly how Crowe destroys people. The next morning came too fast. Isabella barely slept. Andre's words haunted every quiet moment of the night. By the time she arrived at the federal building, the atmosphere already felt strange. People avoided eye contact. Conversation stopped when she walked by. Her chest tightened. This wasn't normal office tension. This was something else. Her assistant approached carefully. You need to see this. She handed over a folder. Inside were financial documents, bank transfers, shell company payments, all under Isabella Marlowe's name. Her breath caught. This is fake. But the paperwork looked authentic. The signatures matched. The accounts existed. Even the transaction dates were carefully timed to match moments in her investigation. Her head spun. This is impossible. The assistant swallowed nervously. The ethics committee wants to see you immediately. Meanwhile, across the city, Leonard Crowe sat in his office watching the news. A reporter spoke calmly into the camera. Federal prosecutor Isabella Marlowe is now under investigation for possible financial misconduct. Crowe smiled faintly. His assistant glanced at him. Do you want us to proceed with phase 2? Yes. What about Thompson? Crowe chuckled softly. Andre will try to intervene. And if he succeeds? Crowe turned his glass slowly. He won't. The ice clinked gently. Because the moment he tries to defend her, he continued, smiling widely. He exposes himself. Inside the ethics hearing room, Isabella sat alone at the long table. 3 committee members reviewed the documents silently. This is a serious allegation, Miss Marlowe. I didn't accept any money. The evidence suggests otherwise. It's fabricated. Do you have proof of that? Her throat tightened. No. Then your case against Thompson Industries is officially suspended pending investigation. The words landed like a hammer. 15 years of work. Her reputation. Everything she had built. Gone in a single sentence. The door opened behind her. Footsteps echoed across the room. She turned. Andre Thompson walked in. Every head turned. What is he doing here? One committee member asked sharply. Andre placed a small flash drive on the table. I believe this hearing is missing some important information. Isabella stared at him. Shock mixing with anger. Why are you here? She whispered. His voice was quiet but firm. Because this isn't your fight anymore. He looked directly at the committee. It's mine. The room went silent the moment Andre Thompson spoke. Even the air felt heavier. The 3 members of the ethics committee looked from Isabella to Andre and back again. One of them finally leaned forward. Mr. Thompson, this hearing does not concern you. Andre didn't sit. Didn't even look at Isabella. It concerns fabricated financial evidence designed to destroy a federal prosecutor. His voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that made powerful people uncomfortable. The man at the center of the panel frowned. You're making a serious accusation. Yes, Andre said. And you have proof? Andre pushed the flash drive across the polished table. Everything you need is there. The committee exchanged looks. One of them inserted the drive into a laptop. Seconds passed. Then the man's eyebrows shot upward. What is this? Financial routing data, Andre replied. Every account used to plant those transactions in Ms. Marlowe's name. The room went still. The committee member scrolled through the files. Layer after layer of digital records appeared. Tracking numbers. Encrypted transfers. Corporate shells. Every single movement mapped precisely. Then the man looked up slowly. These accounts lead back to... He stopped. His expression darkened. To Thompson Industries. Isabella's stomach dropped. Her head snapped toward Andre, eyes wide. What? He didn't look at her. The committee member's voice hardened. So you're admitting your company planted the evidence? Andre's gaze remained steady. Yes. The words slammed through the room. Isabella's heart started pounding. That's not true, she said immediately. But Andre still wouldn't meet her eyes. Why? The panel demanded. Because, Andre said quietly, I needed leverage over Ms. Marlowe's investigation. The words felt like knives. Her chair scraped as she stood. You're lying. He is lying, she said again, turning towards the committee. The committee members turned to her. But Andre spoke again before she could continue. My company manipulated the financial data in order to compromise the prosecutor leading the investigation. His tone remained cold. Precise. Professional. Every word sounded like a confession. The panel members whispered among themselves. One finally said, Mr. Thompson, do you understand the legal consequences of what you're admitting? Yes. You're confessing to corporate fraud, obstruction of justice, and tampering with a federal investigation. Yes. Her chest felt tight. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. You're protecting me, she whispered. For the first time since entering the room. Andre finally looked at her. His eyes were steady. But there was something in them she had never seen before. Sadness. You needed a villain, he said quietly. Her breath caught. And I'm very good at being one. 2 hours later, the news exploded. Every major network ran the headline. Billionaire Andre Thompson confessed to corporate fraud. Stock markets reacted immediately. Thompson Industries lost billions in value within minutes. Reporters crowded the streets outside his headquarters. Inside the building, executives scrambled to control the damage. But Andre remained calm. He stood in his office, watching the city below. His phone rang. He already knew who it would be. Leonard Crowe. Andre answered. You always were dramatic, Crow's voice echoed smoothly. You wanted my attention. You've certainly got it. A pause settled between them for a moment. Crow chuckled softly. Did you really think sacrificing your empire would stop me? It buys her time. Time for what? For the truth to surface. Crow laughed again. You're still the same idealistic boy. Andre's voice hardened. You framed her father. And you're just realizing that now? The casual cruelty of the answer didn't surprise him. It confirmed everything. You destroyed him, Andre said. He destroyed himself, Crow replied calmly. He just didn't realize it. Silence stretched. Then Crow spoke again. You've made a mistake, Andre. Have I? Yes. Leonard paused before adding, because now you've left her completely unprotected. And with that, the line went dead. Andre's hand tightened around the phone. Crow wasn't bluffing. He never bluffed. Across the city, Isabella sat alone in her apartment. The television filled the room with breaking news alerts. Her hands trembled. She replayed the ethics hearing in her mind again and again. Andre's confession. His calm voice. The way he refused to look at her until the very end. You needed a villain. Her chest tightened. He had destroyed his entire company. His reputation. His freedom. Just to clear her name. And suddenly everything he had said before made terrifying sense. The warnings. The protection. The SUV attack. The planted evidence. All of it pointed to one truth she had refused to see. Leonard Crow. Her phone rang. She answered instantly. Andre. But the voice on the other end wasn't his. Ms. Marlowe. Yes. This is Detective Harris. Her stomach tightened. Mr. Thompson has just been taken into federal custody. The words felt like a punch to the chest. He confessed, the detective continued. He'll be transferred for formal charges tonight. Her voice shook. Where? Downtown federal detention. The call ended. For a moment she just stood there, breathing, trying to process what had happened. Then she grabbed her coat and ran out the door. By the time Isabella reached the detention facility, the rain had returned. The same cold rain from the night Andre stopped the car chasing her. The guard at the front desk glanced up. Visiting hours are over. I need to see Andre Thompson. Not possible tonight. Her voice hardened. You don't understand. I do understand. She stepped closer. No, she said firmly. You don't. The guard hesitated. Something in her eyes made him pause. After a moment he sighed. 5 minutes. The holding room was small. Gray walls. Metal table. Andre sat on the opposite side when she entered. His hands rested calmly on the surface. Even in a detention uniform, he looked composed. Controlled. But when he saw her, something flickered in his eyes. You shouldn't be here. Her chest burned. Why did you do that? You know why. You confessed to crimes you didn't commit. He shrugged slightly. I've committed worse. That's not funny. I wasn't joking. Her hands slammed onto the table. You destroyed your life, she voiced. No, Andre said, leaning back slightly. I redirected it. For me. Silence filled the room. Then he said something that made her throat tighten. I promised your father I would. Her voice softened. You didn't owe him that. Andre looked at her for a long moment. Yes, he said quietly. I did. Why? The question hung between them. For the first time since she had known him. Andre Thompson looked uncertain. Then he answered with brutal honesty. Because if anything ever happened to you. His voice lowered. I wouldn't survive it. Her heart stopped. The words felt too real. Too vulnerable. The guard knocked on the door. Time's up. Isabella stood slowly. She looked at Andre one last time. You're wrong about one thing, she said. He raised an eyebrow. You're not the villain. Then she turned and walked out. Andre watched the door close. And for the first time since this war started, he looked afraid. Not for himself. But for her. Because Leonard Crow was about to make his final move. The rain had not stopped. By the time Isabella stepped out of the detention facility, the city felt colder than usual. Everything had changed in less than 24 hours. Andre was in custody. His empire was collapsing. And Leonard Crow was still walking freely through the world like the respected titan everyone believed him to be. Her chest tightened. You've left her completely unprotected. Crow's words echoed in her mind like a threat whispered directly into her ear. Andre had sacrificed himself, which meant the man who had orchestrated all of this would assume the war was already won. Good. Let him think that. Because Isabella Marlowe had finally stopped looking in the wrong direction. And now she was ready to fight the right enemy. The next morning, she returned to her office before sunrise. The building was empty. Quiet. Perfect. She locked the door behind her and spread every file connected to Leonard Crowe across her desk. Corporate histories. Political donations. Investment partnerships. Years of influence hidden beneath layers of respectability. At first glance, Crowe looked untouchable. That was the genius of it. He never appeared at the center of anything illegal. He existed just outside every scandal, every collapse, every ruined career. But now Isabella wasn't looking for direct proof. She was looking for patterns. And once she started seeing them, she couldn't stop. Companies that failed after refusing Crowe's investment offers. Prosecutors whose careers collapsed after investigating his financial groups. Politicians whose campaigns suddenly lost funding after challenging his policy positions. And then, the biggest pattern of all. 15 years ago, the year her father died. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened the oldest file in the stack. Her father's company had been preparing to testify before a financial oversight committee. He had discovered something. Something big enough to threaten powerful people. She already knew who one of those people was. Leonard Crowe. But there had always been one missing piece. What exactly had her father found? She searched through archived court records, financial ledgers, old emails. Then suddenly, there it was. A sealed deposition transcript that had never been fully submitted into evidence. Her heart began to pound. She opened the file and started reading. Across the city, Leonard Crowe finished his breakfast calmly. His assistant approached. Isabella Marlowe has reopened the investigation. Crowe smiled faintly. Of course she has. She's reviewing records connected to your early investment firms. Crowe stood and adjusted his cufflinks. Let her. Should we intervene? Not yet. His eyes glimmered with quiet amusement. She needs to feel like she's winning. 3 hours later, Isabella drove straight to the detention center again. This time, she wasn't asking for permission. She walked through the doors with the determination of someone who finally understood the entire battlefield. The guard from the night before recognized her. You again. I need to see Andre Thompson. Not possible. She placed the printed deposition transcript on the desk. Trust me, she said quietly. He'll want to hear this. Andre entered the visitation room 10 minutes later. His expression was calm as always. But when he saw the stack of documents in her hands, his eyes sharpened immediately. You found something. She sat across from him. Yes. What? She slid the transcript across the table. My father discovered a political funding network 15 years ago. Andre studied the page quickly. His jaw tightened. He was preparing to expose Crowe. Yes. And Crowe found out. Yes. Silence filled the room. Then Andre leaned back slowly. That's why he framed your father. Isabella nodded. And when the scandal broke, my father took the blame to protect the investigation. Andre's gaze lifted. He didn't fight it? No. Her throat tightened. He knew if he pushed back publicly, Crowe would bury the evidence forever. Andre stared at the document again. Then his voice softened. He sacrificed himself. Yes. The weight of that truth pressed down on both of them. Her father hadn't been a criminal. He had been protecting the truth. And Leonard Crowe had turned that sacrifice into a weapon. Andre looked at her carefully. Why are you telling me this? Her eyes burned with determination. Because I'm going to finish what my father started. Andre's expression darkened. Isabella. No. She leaned forward. I know you think you're protecting me. I am. But you already sacrificed everything. Her voice trembled slightly. I'm not letting you carry this alone. The guard knocked lightly on the door again. 5 minutes were almost over. Andre watched her carefully. You don't understand how dangerous Crowe is. I do now. And you still want to go after him? Yes, she said gently. He studied her face. The same stubborn fire he remembered from childhood. The same courage her father once carried. Finally, Andre nodded slowly. Then you're going to need my help. 2 days later, the world watched something no one expected. Isabella Marlowe called a public press conference. Every major news network covered it live. Reporters crowded the steps of the federal courthouse. The cameras rolled. Microphones pointed forward. And Isabella stepped up to the podium. Her voice was steady. 15 years ago, my father was accused of financial fraud. The crowd murmured. Today I can confirm that those accusations were fabricated. She held up the deposition transcript. This document proves he was preparing to expose a massive political corruption network. Flashbulbs exploded across the crowd. A reporter shouted, "Who was responsible?" Isabella didn't hesitate. "Leonard Crowe." Gasps rippled through the audience. And, at that exact moment, Leonard Crowe watched the broadcast from his office. For the first time in years, his smile disappeared. But Isabella wasn't finished. She looked directly into the cameras. "And there is one more thing the public deserves to know." The reporters leaned forward. Andre Thompson's recent confession was false. Across the city, Andre watched the same broadcast from inside his holding cell. His chest tightened. "Mr. Thompson sacrificed his reputation to protect me from a false accusation engineered by Leonard Crowe." Shock spread through the press crowd. "And now," Isabella said firmly, "I will prove it." She stepped away from the podium. The cameras kept rolling. The world held its breath. Because the war that had been hidden for 15 years was now completely public. And Leonard Crowe was about to lose control of everything. The courthouse steps erupted into chaos. Reporters shouted questions over one another. "Ms. Marlowe, are you accusing Leonard Crowe of murder? Do you have evidence against Thompson Industries? Was Andre Thompson protecting you the entire time?" But Isabella didn't answer any of them. Not yet. She stepped away from the podium slowly while security moved around her. The world was already reacting. Phones buzzed. News alerts exploded across social media. Within minutes, every major network ran the headline. Federal prosecutor accuses billionaire Leonard Crowe of 15-year corruption cover-up. Inside his glass office across the city, Leonard Crowe watched the broadcast end. His jaw tightened slightly. That was the only visible reaction. But the room felt colder. His assistant spoke carefully. "Sir, the markets are reacting." Crowe didn't respond. "Your legal team is asking if they should prepare a statement." Still nothing. Finally, he picked up the remote and turned the television off. Silence filled the office. Then he said calmly, "Prepare the car." The assistant blinked. "Sir, I'm going to speak with Ms. Marlowe." Across the city, Andre Thompson watched the same press conference from inside his holding cell. The small television mounted on the wall replayed Isabella's statement again and again. Andre leaned forward slowly. She shouldn't have done that. Not publicly. Not yet. Crowe would move now. And when Crowe moved, people got hurt. The guard walked past his cell. "Looks like your girlfriend just started a war," he muttered. Andre's jaw tightened. He stood. "I need to make a call." Isabella returned to her office less than an hour later. The building was chaos. Phones ringing. Assistants running down the hallway. Federal investigators requesting meetings. But Isabella ignored all of it. She walked straight into her office and shut the door. Her heart was still pounding. She knew what she had just done. You don't accuse Leonard Crowe in front of the entire country unless you're ready to finish the fight. Her phone buzzed. "Unknown number." She answered. "Isabella Marlowe." Crowe's voice echoed through the line smoothly. "You've grown bold." Her fingers tightened around the phone. "Hello, Leonard. You should have called me first. You framed my father. That's a serious accusation. You tried to destroy my career." A pause settled between them for a short while. Then Crowe chuckled softly. "You've always been intelligent." Her chest burned. "Where are you?" "Close." The line went dead. Her stomach tightened. And then, a knock on the door followed. She turned slowly. "Come in." The door opened. Leonard Crowe stepped inside. Crowe looked exactly the same as he always had. Perfect suit. Silver hair. Calm expression. the image of a respected billionaire. But Isabella saw something different now. The mask. "You shouldn't be here," she said. Crow closed the door behind him. On the contrary. His eyes moved calmly around the office. "This is long overdue." Her voice sharpened. "You framed my father." Crow tilted his head slightly. "Your father was a stubborn man. He discovered your political funding network. And that was unfortunate." Her heart pounded. "You ruined his life. He ruined his own." The casual cruelty in his tone made her stomach twist. "You could have let him walk away," she said. Crow shook his head. He was preparing to expose billions of dollars moving through international campaigns. "So you destroyed him." "I protected an empire." Her voice dropped. "You killed him." Crow didn't answer immediately. He simply studied her face. Then he said quietly, "Your father understood the rules of power." Her chest tightened. He accepted the consequences. The rage inside her boiled over. "You're admitting it?" "I'm explaining it." "You're finished, Leonard," she said, looking at him dead in the eyes. Crow smiled. "No." He stepped closer. "You made a mistake today." "What mistake?" "You started a war you cannot win." Her voice didn't shake. "Watch me." Crow sighed softly. "You still believe Andre Thompson is protecting you?" Her eyes narrowed. "He is." Crow chuckled. "That boy has been predictable since he was 16. Her pulse jumped. "What do you mean?" Crow's smile grew colder. "I knew he would sacrifice himself." Her stomach dropped. "What?" "That confession?" Crow shrugged. "I designed it." Her breath caught. "You planted the financial routes through Thompson Industries. So Andre would take the blame." Her hands trembled slightly. "You manipulated him." Crow nodded calmly. "Yes." Her voice hardened. "You're confessing to a federal crime." Crow laughed softly. "You still think the law protects you?" His eyes sharpened. "It doesn't." He leaned closer. "Power does." Silence filled the room. Then Isabella said quietly, "Good." Crow frowned slightly. "Why?" She reached slowly into the folder on her desk and pressed a button. A small red light blinked. Crow's eyes moved to the recorder. "You're recording this?" Her voice was steady. "Yes." For the first time since entering the office. Crow's expression shifted. "Only slightly. But enough." "You're smarter than I expected," he said. She didn't smile. "You should have expected it." Footsteps thundered down the hallway. The door burst open. Federal agents flooded the room. "Leonard Crow, step away from the desk," the police yelled across the room. Crow turned slowly. The calm mask was back. "You won't prove anything." But the lead agent held up a warrant. "We already have." Crow's eyes flickered to Isabella one last time. Then the handcuffs snapped around his wrists. Across the city, Andre sat in the detention room when the door opened. A federal marshal stepped inside. "You're free to go." Andre frowned. "What?" Charges dropped. The man shrugged. Apparently the real villain just confessed. Andre exhaled slowly, shaking his head in amazement. A tiny smile forming at the corners of his mouth. "I always knew you could do it," he mumbled to himself. And for the first time in days, Crow was finished. That evening, Andre walked into Isabella's office. The building was finally quiet again. She stood near the window when he entered. For a moment neither of them spoke. Then she turned. "You're out." "Yes." Her chest felt lighter than it had in weeks. "You look terrible." He smirked slightly. "Detention doesn't offer luxury accommodations." Silence settled between them. Then Andre said quietly, "You shouldn't have confronted Crow alone." "I wasn't alone." "You could have been killed." Her voice softened. "But I wasn't." He studied her carefully. "Why?" "Because you taught me how he thinks." The tension slowly eased. Then she stepped closer. "You spent 15 years protecting me." Andre looked away. "You didn't need protection." "That's not true." Her voice dropped. "I was just too stubborn to see it." He met her eyes again. "And now?" She took another step closer. "Now I know the man I feared the most." Her fingers gently took his hand. "Was the only man who never stopped protecting me." Something softened in Andre's expression. "Isabella," he called, but she didn't let him finish. She kissed him. Not gently. Not cautiously, but like someone who had waited 15 years to do it. And when they finally pulled apart, Andre's voice was low. You realize this makes things complicated. She smiled. I'm a prosecutor. I noticed. And you're a billionaire with a talent for breaking the law. I prefer strategic bending. She laughed softly. Then her voice turned serious. What happens now? Andre looked at her for a long moment. Then he said quietly, now we stop fighting each other. And? His fingers tightened around hers. And now we build something better than the war that brought us here. Her smile softened. I'd like that. Outside the window, the city lights shimmered across the night skyline. For the first time in 15 years, the past no longer controlled their future. And the man she had feared the most was finally the man she couldn't imagine living without. If you made it all the way to the end of this story, comment. Truth always wins. And if you love powerful billionaire romance stories like this one, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who believes love can survive even the darkest wars. Until next time, this is Soul Storyverse TV.